Welcome to the next section of the course. This section will dive very deep into golden ratio used in logo design. We're going to really understand the golden ratio after this because we're going to create it from scratch. And I want to be able to create this ratio and the circles that we're going to use in this process so you can really truly understand how it's created. And so I teach several lessons and several classes that talk about the golden ratio in logo design, but with this class there's going to be a much deeper understanding of it. So we're going to hop into Adobe Illustrator. First of all, you've probably seen the golden ratio circles used quite a bit in logo designs as you kind of search for logo inspiration, and that is exactly what we're going to be creating, is those little circles. And we're going to hop on Adobe Illustrator. The first thing we got to do is create our golden ratio boxes. So you're probably wondering, where do these logo designers get all these circles and how do they apply this 1.168 ratio to create these circles? Well, we're going to do that right now. So I'm in Adobe Illustrator and we're going to be creating two different boxes, and we're going to put it together based on the golden ratio, and then we're going to be able to create these circles from it. So I'm going to go through this whole process. It may seem a little confusing at first, but just hang with me. So what we're going to do, I'm just in a kind of a generic document. I'm going to just go to my edit artboard. So I'm just going to document setup, going to edit some artboards. I'm just going to add new. You can also just create a new document however you want to do it. And up here on width and height, I'm going to make this 10, or I'm going to make it 1. We'll make it easy and just make it a 1-for-1. So right now I'm using inches, but you can use whatever measurement you'd like because I know not everybody uses inches. So now I have this little perfect 1 inch by 1 inch square. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that off to the right. So now we need to create the golden ratio part. We need to create a square that's 0.1618 multiple of the 1. So it's a little bit bigger than that size. So all we're going to do is go to Document Setup, go to Edit Artboards, and now we're going to do, we could do width or we could do height. Let's do width. And so instead of just the 1, we're going to do a 1.618. So now we're going to go ahead and click on OK. This is going to be a new artboard, so we're going to make sure we add a new one, and then we do it that way. And it's going to automatically round up to that decimal. That's okay. It's very, very small round up. That's all right. So we have one that's a 1 inch by 1 inch square, one that's a 1 inch by our golden ratio 1.618. So just two simple squares. We're going to simply draw a box that's going to take up that whole square. And then we're just going to copy and paste, and we're just getting an idea for size, just creating the ratio. And get as close as you can to the exact edges. And we're going to combine these boxes together. So now we're just going to make these fill, maybe make them a different color to make sure they go all the way to the edge. And it's great to kind of go through this process. You can really understand how golden ratios are derived, so you can really kind of understand how best to use them. So now that they're two different colors, we're going to put this box in here, and we create our first golden ratio rectangle. So this shape is the golden ratio. So this is your 1 by 1 inch, and this is your 1 by 1.618 inch in length. So this is the exact ratio. We created the different boxes. So that's our first step in creating the golden ratio spiral, which will eventually give us the circles. So now we're just going to make this perfect. I'm just going to do a top alignment so they're perfectly matched up. And here's the trick. What we're going to do is we're going to be duplicating this ratio over and over again into the different boxes to create what looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you ahead of time. This is exactly what we're going to create here next. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this, and we're going to put the same ratio on the right side. And so we're going to continue to do this over and over until we get what I've shown you before, what it's supposed to look like. So we're going to take this. I went ahead and I went to path and I outlined the strokes, so when we make it smaller, the stroke sizes are not going to change. So I'm just going to make sure that's grouped together, and it is. I'm going to copy and paste it. So now I have a second one here, and I'm going to rotate it. And what I want to do is when I rotate it, I want to make sure the bigger box is on the top. So I'm just going to go to Object, Transform. I'm just going to rotate it. Instead of 90 degrees, I really want that bigger box on the top, and that's for a reason. I'm just going to rotate it by 270 degrees, and that should land the bigger box on the top. So now here's the thing with golden ratio and anything we do in the golden ratio section of the class. When you have the golden ratio here, you have the top portion, you have the bottom portion, and same will go for the golden ratio circles. You can size these however you want as long as they all maintain the ratio together. So you can't move the top box and make it bigger and keep the other one the same size. They all have to scale up and down together to stay in that ratio. So here we go. Here's going to be our second box. And then we're going to continue to do this, and we're going to rotate it again. So we're going to copy and paste. And now we're going to put it in this square. And so we want to have the bigger square on the right. And you'll see, because the bigger side of the rectangle will be kind of along the right in a spiral. So you'll see kind of at the end. I'm going to want the bigger one on the right. So I'm just going to rotate this again. I'm just going to rotate it 270 degrees again. Make it smaller. As long as I'm holding down shift, they'll scale dimensionally together. Holding down shift and dragging. And I'm going to do this again and again and again. So I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to rotate it by 270 degrees. I'm going to make it smaller. We're going to put it in that smaller, so each time we copy and paste a new one, we're putting it into the smaller side of the ratio. So we're going to put this big one into the smaller side. So we're going to do this just a few more times. Copy and paste. There we go. So now how do we get the golden ratio spiral that you see everywhere? We're going to go ahead and draw the golden ratio spiral next. So now that we have our golden ratio rectangle set up, I opened up a much larger document, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm just making, as long as you keep all the boxes, or in the future case the circles, the same size together and scale them together, you can make it as large as you'd like. So now we're going to create the spiral. I have this on a separate layer right here, and I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally select anything here. And I have a new layer, and I'm going to be drawing a spiral that's going to go on the tips and the corners of each one of these boxes, just like this. I'll go ahead and show some circles highlighted on the screen of the places we're going to draw the spiral. We're not going to be using the spiral in logo design, but I just wanted to kind of show you where this is coming from in terms of understanding kind of how the golden ratio spiral is created. So since we're doing lots of curves, I'm going to do the curvature tool. It's going to give me a lot more control when it comes to doing this. So I'm just going to click over here and click on the corners. I'm going to go in the center and just make a rounded curve. I'm going to make sure my stroke is on so I can kind of see what's going on. Maybe make it a different color and make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So now I'm going to click down on this corner. I'm going to click down on this corner. And I'm just going to keep on clicking, and we can go ahead and we can always, at any time with the curvature tool, adjust our curves a little bit. So it's going to be more of a spiral shape. I'm going up to this corner, and we're slowly working our way through all these boxes to go ahead and get our spiral. And what we're doing is we're clicking to the next size box. And we may have to zoom in to get kind of detailed here. And then the corner. So now I'm just going to make some adjustments with my curvature tool to give myself a little bit more precise curves, or nicer curves. And you want to make sure the little points are resting right here in the intersection point in that corner. Making sure we don't have anything going outside, just like that. So there is the golden ratio spiral. So now how do we create these circles that we're going to need to be able to create a golden ratio logo design? Because right now we have squares, and which is great if you want to do layout. But if we want to translate that to symbols that have curves and circular shapes that you're so used to seeing in logo design, how do we create those circles? So we're going to move the spiral away just a little bit, and we're going to create this next. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a series of circles on each one of these boxes all the way around. And when we draw a circle, so let's say we draw this circle, and we're just going to do right up to the edges. If I draw a circle here in this box, and then I draw a circle here in this box, or I guess I should say a square now, the ratio stays intact. So now the ratio between the circles are now that same golden ratio, 1 to 1.618. And so now these two circles in relation to each other keep the golden ratio, but this time in a circular fashion instead of a square. Everybody kind of created this nice, natural, pleasing to the eye ratio. It actually originated in nature by the nautilus. Uses the golden ratio. Each one of its little scales or new growth in its shell is all the golden ratio all the way down. They're all 1 to 1.618. That's kind of where this originally derived from, was nature, and then philosophers and artists started to use it because it was aesthetically pleasing. It's natural. Of course, you can keep going on the inside until it's really, really tiny. Get these smaller little circles, which could be useful in logo design. But I find that this is usually about the amount I need. So yeah, you can keep going for an infinite amount of time, really. And that's it. That's the last square. That's the last one, because that's not a square. This part's the square. So that's it. So we ran out. So that's all of our circles. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and save my document. I'm actually going to provide this as a downloadable file. I'm going to get it all ready, and this is what the final file is going to look like. You can download this in Illustrator format, and you can have all the circles ready. You can have the squares already drawn out for you. I really encourage you to do this yourself just to practice it, but if you want to go ahead and have those circles ready, I'm going to go ahead and perfect this before I bring it in as a resource. I'll go ahead and get the lines, everything lined up a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm going to bring all of these circles down, and I'm going to overlap them. Just going to put them all in the center, and we're going to use our align panel to be able to line all of these circles up nicely. So you could do it nice and rough. We got some really good ratios going on here. All of these are, the next one is 1.618 bigger than the next one. So they all maintain the nice ratio. And now we have all of them selected. I'm going to go to my align panel, do all my center align. So horizontal align center, vertical align, center, center, center. So now they're all perfectly even. Once again, this will also be in the resource guide. I'm going to make them all similar strokes so they all kind of look consistent. So there you have it. We have everything we need now to start our golden ratio logo design. I'm going to show you an example of what we're going to be creating. This is kind of the final logo we're going to be creating, and I'm going to show you how I created this, how I arranged the circles to do it. We're going to do a couple of quick little practice things so you can get used to using the golden ratio in logo design, and then we're going to end with this logo. So hopefully this will be a really fun and practical logo design project for you. So if you have a chance, download the Golden Ratio Guide, which is in Adobe Illustrator, and there's also a JPEG of it. But open up the Adobe Illustrator, you can go ahead and take these already created Golden Ratio circles. That's what we're going to use for this lesson of the class. Or if you decided to draw your own Golden Ratio with the methods we used previously, even better. So I'm going to just open up a new document, and we're going to paste those in here. I already have it kind of loaded and ready to go. And these already still have their strokes on it, so I can toggle fill, which is going to be really important for what we're going to do in a second. And so I have a lot of people ask me, well, how do you create shapes and begin to know how to create animal shapes or any kind of shapes using the golden ratio when I just have a blank canvas? How do I go about the creative process of figuring that out? The next lesson or two is going to go through that process of how I could take reference photos and find ideas, how I can do rough drawings and be able to take the golden ratio circles to create better shapes for those drawings. But first I'm going to show you kind of some great cheat kind of ways that you can make logos a lot quicker using the golden ratio. You can increase and decrease the size of your circles together, but you can never take one circle and make it bigger, because then it'll mess up the balance of the ratio. So whenever you increase the circle or one of the circles, make sure you do them all the same amount so that ratio always stays the same. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be my main guide, so I'm copying and pasting from here. So I'm just going to take a couple of circles. It's going to take 3 circles, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. And anytime I need a certain size, I'll just kind of copy and paste it over here and start working on that particular piece. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. So with the golden ratio, there's something really cool. So let's say I'm going to take this middle one right here. I'm going to create a donut with a bite taken out. Well, I want to make the donut and the bite taken out according to the golden ratio. So I just have these two golden ratio circles, and that'll make the donut. And let's say I want to take a bite out of it. Take a big bite out of it right there. And so how do we kind of cut all this out? I'm going to go ahead and select it all. I'm going to take the shape builder tool, and also I can toggle on fill so I can see it a little bit better. And get the shape builder tool, I'm going to hold down Option. I can subtract all sorts of shapes out. And just like that, I kind of create a little donut. We can create a couple other things as well. So just for another example, let's say I just copied and pasted this set of circles, and let's create a little snowman. So this will be the bottom of the snowman, and we can overlap if we wanted to. Okay, these can be the buttons. So I'm just going to hold down Option. This is a golden ratio snowman, just to kind of show you how I use the shape builder tool to quickly cut and subtract objects. I'm just going to align all that. Align my circles. Okay, so what I would do is I'd go ahead and toggle everything to a fill. Get my shape builder tool, I would add all of these together. Okay, and now I'd select everything. Shape builder tool, I'd hold down Option to get my subtraction. And there's our little golden ratio snowman. And of course we can always make adjustments to that. So let's say we already have an object in mind. Let's say a bird. We want to have a bird for a symbol or a logo or an icon. And we want to go ahead and create that. So what I like to do, I have a lot of students struggle and they go, okay, I have these circles. So let's say they just take a couple circles and they're trying to build a bird out of it, and they're just kind of a little bit confused about how they draw the shape. What I like to do is I like to draw a rough version sketch of the bird and then use the golden ratios to come up with the curves and the bends. And you could do the same thing with a photo, just some kind of reference photo to help guide you. So I'm going to just draw this really rough looking bird sketch. So I'm just going to kind of just have the pen tool. Just a rough looking bird, doesn't have to be anything brilliant, because the golden ratio is really going to help you out here. There's our little bird, not too exciting. And we're going to take a couple of these circles here and go ahead and find the right curves for our shape. So wherever we kind of see curves, and let's go ahead and make this a different color so we can kind of differentiate a little bit. So wherever you see curves, you can use that opportunity to kind of find your shapes. And I'm just going to copy and paste from my master golden ratio over there. And what it's really great for is heads. So see how that's really, really close? That size I chose is really close to the head. So now I know kind of when I'm going to go back and smooth that head out to match the golden ratio circle. And then now we can start getting some smaller ones to help us with particular areas. So just continuing to use kind of some shapes to get a good idea of the curves to use. Okay, so now what we could do is we can start to adapt some of these curves. So I'm selecting our bird shape and getting our curvature tool and just kind of matching it. We're going to do this a lot in our logo example we're going to do for the class. See, now there's going to be like a curve to the beak, and we can use our golden ratio to kind of figure out what that curve is going to be exactly. Maybe we could use our bigger one, kind of see if we get a curve. That's a pretty close match. So now we can get a good idea of the curve for that. And we could even find something to really get that curve going. So let's get a smaller one and see if that matches pretty good right about there. And then it just helps us really get our curves correct and have some kind of direction for where to take these curves and bends. And so when it gets a little bit busy, you can go ahead and make everything a little bit smaller in terms of the path. And you can also reduce the transparency, because sometimes when it gets a little bit busy. And a lot of these may not end up being used. So if I don't end up using maybe this one down here, you don't necessarily have to keep it around. I'm just going to keep the ones that you're actually using in the design to help you create the shape. So this body right here, I can extend this body out a little bit if I wanted to, or I can take a smaller circle shape and I can match that. Just getting the curvature tool, bring that down. See how I kind of match that curve right there? You kind of see a much better bird shape kind of coming along. And right here we could find something for that little curve here to find out where that should go. We could just get maybe the bigger one. Get a nice big curve there, right about there. You can start to see these intersecting lines, and these are opportunities to make certain shapes. And so we'll get to that a little bit when we do more complex shapes, where we start to find shapes within overlapping circles. And you'll see a lot of examples. I'm going to show you another example of someone, another talented designer who takes all these circles and finds opportunities in the overlapping parts of the circle to find shapes. So right there, there's an opportunity to do that. And also this bend, we can maybe even So let's say I'm finding out this body is way too long and I want to shorten the body. I may feel stuck because see this how this goes nicely, forms the back of the body and then comes down and forms the bottom. It's not a big deal with golden ratio design. You can get a smaller circle and you can find a different curve to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and try to shorten this body a little bit. Just going to line this up. See, I'm kind of lining the circle up here, but also down here. And we can follow this circle. So this follows this one right here all the way down. And then we could start to change and it can follow this one now. So I could shorten the body. So it's really just following those curves. As long as you follow those curves and they're all within the golden ratio, it's all fair game. I'm just subtracting points if I have too many. And I could even subtract this tail and do the tail at another time. That might make it a little bit easier. I could just add that tail in with the shape builder tool or the pathfinder tool. Let me smooth all this out and get that. I love the curvature tool because it just helps me match the curves when I do this kind of work. So now we have a shorter body and we can go ahead and toggle that on, kind of see how that's starting to form. If we wanted to, let's go ahead and move this, make sure that's on the top. You could see that, how the rounded head. You could always make the head bigger or taller. You just combine those circles and find opportunities to use them. And also make sure you keep the circles that are being used. So if you have any circles that aren't being used for a curve, delete them because it can be a crazy mess if you have something super complicated. So I think all of these circles are being used on some curve at some point. Let's just take it in another direction just to continue to practice. I erased the tail and we're going to try to make a little penguin shape out of this. I think we got a really good body for a penguin, a nice big fat body. So, a lot of penguins have this little white kind of curve on their chest. And once again, the golden ratio can come in handy kind of trying to find where that curve would start and begin. We could do it here and have it become this little area right here. We can get an even bigger circle and try to find the curve that way. So maybe right about here. And what I like to do is find another opportunity to line it up with another circle. So see how this lines up right there at the tip of the nose? So that could be a good location. And you could also use the shape builder tool to draw and subtract the shape as well. But I'm just going to draw it here real quick on top. Go ahead and make that a solid color. We can go back and fine tune where it bends using the curvature tool. Whatever tool you like to use. If you just like using the pen tool, nothing beats the curvature tool when you're trying to do curves though. And we can make this a different color. We can make it a little bit lighter so we can kind of know what shape it is. and send it behind. You can also put the circles on another layer so you don't accidentally select that. Yay, and now we can create little feet, and we got our little penguin icon. We can even create an eye with the golden ratio. Let's go ahead and go and get 2 of these little ones. Let's go ahead and grab all 3, bring them over. And what I'd like to do is see how these kind of cross over here. We could put the eye in that location. Seems like a natural fit. Put it right here. Okay, we can make that a fill, a solid fill. Maybe use this color. All I have to do is add some feet, and I think we have a little penguin icon here. So I went back and I added just a little bit of a foot there, just drew a foot shape. You can kind of see the shape that I drew, and just added a circle to kind of get the curve of the paw or the foot or whatever you call it on a penguin right there. And then I just added like a little tail and used this curve to get kind of the downward slope of the tail. So with all penguins, this penguin doesn't have any wings, so let's add maybe a little flap of wings here. So we can take 2 of these circles and see what might make some good overlapping wings. So I'm just going to copy and paste the same size. And see these overlapping, I'm going to go ahead and make them a different color so you can start to really see them. So you see kind of the overlap that I made here with the circles. And that's how you use the golden ratio, is finding those overlapping objects. So let's say I want to, instead of having to draw over that and do all that, I could just take the shape builder tool. Of course, I'm going to copy and paste because I want to keep those circles as a reference. And I'm going to do a fill on that and then just subtract it. And now I have my wing. And now I can make it the same color here and go ahead and keep these circles here for a reference guide so I could show people how I came up with that shape. And what's really cool is now that I have this shape, I can find a way to maybe position it or angle it a little different so it matches up with the already existing circle. So you see this circle right around here. I'm going to see if I can't just bring it down just a little bit so it kind of overlaps and intersects. So at least there's some kind of connection with the other circles. So this looks like a hot mess, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead, and you can always put these on different layers so you can toggle off your golden ratio circles and not affect the penguin. So let's see what we have here. So here's our penguin taking shape, and I decided to extend this white belly portion all the way up through the neck after looking at some reference photos of penguins. So it's really good to kind of check on a real photo just to kind of see in terms of their anatomy how it looks. So I just kind of did that, and I used the golden ratio as inspiration. I also switched out the colors, started to put some coloring into our icon if we wanted to add colors. So I'm going to toggle on my golden ratio layer here so I can toggle it on and off. And I made it a nice color that's going to have a nice high contrast so I can kind of see kind of what's going on here with all these different overlapping circles. And what I did when I zoomed in here, you can kind of see my inspiration for doing some of the curves of the neck. So I used this circle to kind of do the curve all the way up, and then used kind of curves to go down. So just kind of using the golden ratio, already existing circles to create additional shapes. So there you have it. I also have a shadow here that I cast. That's just a little extra thing I did. And we did this in about 20 minutes or so. So not bad for a little icon in 20 minutes with a big help from the golden ratio. And so a lot of times I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer. Now I just have my golden ratio circles. And what I want to do is I want to select my circles, and you'll see this a lot done with golden ratio logos. As I'm in my stroke panel, and I'm going to click on dash line. So I'm going to click on dash line. It's going to make them all dashed. And we're going to make it a much tighter dash. So let's go ahead and make it a 2. And so you can kind of see, when you see the dashes, you can kind of make out the circles a lot easier. And I'm even going to adjust the color just a little bit. There we go. So now people can have a better idea of kind of where these intersecting circles are. Just the dotted lines just kind of help guide the eye a little bit better. So there you go. I'm just going to add a little bit of color and pizzazz and have a final presentation for our little penguin icon. So that's kind of the basics of how the golden ratio works. We're going to do a practical logo design project now. We're going to be doing this Pacific Calm. It's a gym and a spa. I'm going to put a little client brief in the next lesson so you can kind of see everything we need to know before we tackle this logo. We're going to do the entire logo design process using the golden ratio as our main driver. We're going to be able to pick out typography and font pairing. And lastly, we're going to be applying it to products and doing final presentations. And then we're even going to take this logo and export all the files we'll need for the client. So we're going to go through that kind of last half of the process that we didn't do in the Coffee Guild logo. We're going to be able to export the files and work with that final logo so you can kind of see all the way to the end of the process. But you get to do it with a different brand. So I'm really excited about this next one. Are you ready for a student design challenge? This one will involve you creating a logo design that will simulate a real-world client project. Here's the client brief. The full name of the company is called Pacific Calm Health Club and Spa. They're a lifestyle gym that offers both traditional gym services, but also offers yoga classes and has a full-service spa. The target audience is mostly women, with a focus on making them stronger, yet less stressed, calm and ready to conquer life. They are both a gym and a spa, and their main emphasis on reducing stress. Their tagline, which they'd like to have included in at least one version of the logo, is "Love Yourself Healthy." The client would like to see a version of the logo with it and a version without it, so they can use it in many different scenarios. They are located in the Pacific West Coast of the United States and want to work that into the logo and brand somehow, whether it be drops, waves, ocean themes. They want something simple as well, nothing that's too complex. They plan on offering a spa shop that would have the logo or logo mark on them, and they prefer to have a logo that contains a symbol or just the logo mark of some sort that can stand alone on products if need be. You could post your project in the Q&A or community section of your class, or post it right here on the exclusive student Facebook group. This will be a fun and unique project, as everyone will have the same client brief. It'll be interesting how everyone interprets the client brief and adds their own flair and creative style to the mock client. Good luck and have fun.